everyone, welcome to Actual English. I'm Jennifer Clyde. It's time for lesson 282 and we're going to continue talking about Korean food. But let's talk about a very special Korean food known as kimchi. There are tons and tons of different types of kimchis out there. I was actually surprised to find out there were more than 100 different types of kimchis. I think I've only tried about maybe 10 different kinds at most. How many different types or kinds of kimchis have you tried so far? Okay, anyhow, we're going to be talking about kimchi, how it's fermented cabbage, and a lot more. Okay, let's first of all find out what these two have to mention about kimchi in today's Actual Talk. Here we go.
Mary, a question. Are you into fermented foods?
I don't know. There's lots of different fermented foods that I'm probably not familiar with, but I know kombucha is a tea that's kind of popular in the health community.
Wow, a fermented tea?
Right.
That's the first I've heard of that.
It's really yummy, and people drink it because of the probiotics. It's supposed to be healthy for your digestive tract.
Sure, well, I think that's why fermented foods are really popular in Korea. You know, we've got a doenjang, which is fermented soybeans, and the number one most popular dish, kimchi,
right,
with all its probiotics and stuff. Are you a fan of kimchi?
I like kimchi. I mean, there's so many different kinds, right?
Yeah.
So when I first came, I liked the radish kind of cube kimchi. That was my favorite.
That's nice. Gakdugi, I think.
Right. And then I eased my way into more of the spicier, sour kimchi.
Yeah.
Now if I'm away from Korea for too long, I miss it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's like a proper Korean, because when they go abroad, sometimes they pack some kimchi in their suitcase. Yeah, I think it can explode sometimes, so be careful.
And it's quite smelly. That is not something I'd want on my clothes.
No, perhaps not. But like you as well, I used to like the less spicy kimchis, but now I think my favorite kind is the fresh kimchi, which I don't think is actually fermented. It's called got-jeori, and that's served with dishes like samgyetang, the boiled chicken.
Okay.
And I have to eat it with something. I can't eat it on its
own.
Is it
red?
Yeah, it is red. It's very red, but it doesn't taste as deep as the other kimchis. Do you like the cucumber kimchi?
I don't know if I've tried that.
Stuffed with little strips of radish, I think.
Oh, I've never tried that.
It looks cool.
I might have to taste that now. It looks cool, but how does it taste?
I don't like cucumbers.
Okay.
But I just thought I'd toss that question out there.
Just photograph it?
Yeah, for your SNS sites or something. It's cool to eat kimchi these days,
That's right. It is trendy. When my friends come over, I always suggest that if they don't like it raw, to cook it.
It is much more palatable, I think, cooked, right? Yeah, I'm going to have some cooked kimchi after this.
Well, Mary and Peter seem to know more about kimchi than I do, so I've actually learned from this conversation. I hope you found it to be interesting as well. Okay, then let's take a look at it together. Here's today's Actual Talk. Peter says, Mary, a question, meaning, Mary, I have a question for you. Are you into fermented foods? Are you into? Be into something means to be interested in or to like, be fond of. Are you into A means do you like A? Here we have the word fermented foods. Now, ferment. As a verb, the stress goes on the first syllable, so it's ferment, but as a noun, it is ferment. So the stress goes right there on the second syllable, ferment. Fermented foods. So, let's say, for example, if you talk about food or even drinks that ferments or are fermented, you're saying that a chemical change occurs, and usually because of this chemical change, alcohol is produced. So, of course, when we talk about kimchi, we can say that it is a type of fermented food. Okay, wine is a fermented drink. Beer is a fermented drink as well. There's yeast in it. So just keep it in mind. Fermented foods. Now, Mary says, I don't know. There are lots of different fermented foods that I'm probably not familiar with. So she's saying there are probably many different kinds of fermented foods that I don't know about. But I know kombucha is a tea that's kind of popular in the health community. So now she's talking about a type of tea that's popular in a certain community. She says health community. Now, community is basically a group of people. It's like a group, okay, group of people who usually share a common interest. So in this case, since she said health community, it would be a community, a group of people that are interested in health, okay? So, well, there's a tea called kombucha that's popular among these people. Here we go. A fermented tea, he says. That's interesting. That's the first I heard of that. Okay, I've never heard of fermented tea before. Now, Mary goes, it's really yummy. And people drink it because of the probiotics. Now, first of all, she says that it is yummy. Y-U-M-M-Y. It's just a very cute and casual way of saying delicious. Okay? Usually kids, little kids, they say, this is yummy. Even adults could say yummy. You could say, that sounds yummy. This ice cream is yummy. It's just a cute and a casual way, an informal way of saying delicious. It's very tasty. So she's saying it's really yummy. It's supposed to be healthy for your digestive tract. Digestive tract meaning your digestive system. Okay, so she's saying that this, was it kombucha? Yeah, this tea is a fermented tea which is good for your digestive system. It helps you digest food or whatever easily. Well, I think that's why fermented foods are really popular in Korea. Okay, so maybe that's the reason why fermented foods are popular in Korea. Here we go. Now he talks about doenjang. You've got doenjang, which is fermented soybeans. And the number one most popular dish, kimchi, with all its probiotics and stuff. Okay, so he's mentioned doenjang and kimchi. So he explained doenjang as a type of sauce or a paste, actually. It's fermented soybeans or fermented soybean paste would be exact. And he talks about kimchi as well. And then he throws in a question. Are you a fan of kimchi? We've gone over a fan of, be a fan of something several times, but as a reminder, and for those of you that are tuning in for the very first time, when you say that you are a fan of something, it means that you like that thing very much, okay? You're a huge fan of something. You love it, in other words. So he asks, are you a fan of kimchi? In other words, do you like kimchi? Do you love kimchi? Let's see. Mary says, I like kimchi. I mean, there are so many different kinds, right? And she says, when I first came, meaning when I first came to Korea, I liked the radish, kind of cube kimchi. I think she's talking about 깍두기. Cube is what? Cube is just, she's talking about how this kimchi is cube-shaped. It's cut in the shape of cubes, okay? So of course we're talking about cube. That's a cube. So we're talking about 깍두기, of course. Radish kimchi or cubed kimchi could be some ways of describing 깍두기. She says, that was my favorite. When she first came, 깍두기 was her favorite. And then he says, yeah, 깍두기, I think. That's correct. And then I eased my way into more of the spicier, sour kimchi. Now, if you ease into something, you are slowly moving or shifting towards something, usually very carefully. Not all of a sudden, not all at once, but gradually, little by little, very cautiously, carefully. So she's saying at first, when she first came to Korea, she really, really liked 깍두기. But then she says, I eased my way into more of the spicier, sour kimchi. So she kind of gradually, little by little, tried spicier kimchis and the more sour kimchis. I think she's talking more about the shin kimchi, okay? Now, if I'm away from Korea for too long, I miss it. Wow, she's become a Korean. So she's saying when she takes a trip away from Korea for too long, she misses kimchi. She wants to eat kimchi. She gets this craving for kimchi. And Peter says, really? That's like a proper Korean. That's like the usual Korean, proper here. We're not talking about something being right or wrong, but we're saying the standard Korean, the usual Korean. Because when they go abroad, when they travel abroad, when they travel to foreign countries, sometimes they pack some kimchi in their suitcase. Pack is what? As a verb. It means to, I guess, carry with you in your bag. So, yes, a lot of Koreans, when they travel abroad, they pack kimchi in their suitcase. Some pack gochujang in their suitcase too. So they always make sure they carry kimchi or gochujang with them when they travel. Now, it's hard for Mary to believe, so she says, kimchi in their suitcase? No way! I can't believe it. Peter says, I think it can explode sometimes, so be careful. Explode means what? It means to burst, go like a bomb would just explode, okay? I'm not a very good artist, so that's supposed to be something exploding, okay, like sparks everywhere. So explode, that's true. If you pack things such as kimchi in a bag and it heats up a bit, the bag could explode. It could burst, pop, blow up, in other words. So he says, be careful. Mary says, yeah, and it's quite smelly. Remember this word, smelly? We talked about it in our previous lesson. If you say something is smelly, what does it mean? Does it mean that it smells good or bad? It smells bad, that's right. It either has a strong smell, it's pungent, it's stinking. If something smells bad or has a strong smell to it, you say that it is smelly. So she says, it's quite smelly. That is not something that I would want on my clothes. I wouldn't want kimchi on my clothes either. Peter says, no, perhaps not. But like you, I used to like the less spicy kimchis. The less spicy. The kimchis that aren't as spicy. But now, I think my favorite kind is fresh kimchi. Fresh kimchi? What is he talking about? He's talking about 겉절이. It's called 겉절이, the fresh kimchi, and that's served with dishes like 삼계탕, the boiled chicken is what he says. I think 겉절이 is most commonly served with 칼국수, I think. Yeah, maybe even with 삼계탕. But to point something out, he said 삼계탕, the boiled chicken, even better. Chicken soup would be more exact when you want to talk about samgyetang because it is a type of soup, right? Not just boiled chicken, but it's a soup with chicken in it. Anyhow, he talks about the fresh kimchi, which happens to be 겉절이. And I have to eat it with something. I can't eat it on its own. Aha. So he says, I have to. I have to eat it with something. Okay? He can't have the 겉절이 on its own. On its own meaning only 겉절이. He can't have only 겉절이. He has to have something with it. Anyhow, Mary asks, is it red? Is it red? Yeah, it's very red, but it doesn't taste as deep as the other kimchis. And then he asks, do you like the cucumber kimchi? Now he's talking about the 겉절이, and he says it's not as deep as the other kimchis. Now, if you say that something is deep, the ocean or the swimming pool can be deep, okay? Really, physically, it can be very deep. A conversation can be deep as well. In that case, it means very serious, okay? Deep in this sense, we're talking about taste, so perhaps we're saying that the taste is very intense. So, it doesn't taste as deep as the other kimchis. It doesn't taste as intense as the other kimchis, or an easier way of putting it is, it doesn't taste as strong as the other kimchis. Anyhow, he asks, do you like the cucumber kimchi? She says, I don't know if I've tried that. She's not sure if she's eaten or tried cucumber kimchi. Oisobaki, right? Now, Peter says it's stuffed with something. Strips of radish, I think. Something can be stuffed with something. It means that strips of radish are put into the kimchi. Dumplings, such as mandu, are stuffed with meat and vegetables, okay? And these cucumbers are stuffed with strips of radish and also carrots and more vegetables, I think. So that's what he means. Oh, I've never tried that, she says. I might have to taste that now. It looks cool, but how does it taste? Here we go. Peter says, I don't like cucumbers. He doesn't like cucumbers, but I just thought that I'd toss that question out there. Here we have a pattern. Toss something out, or just toss. It means to throw out. So in this case, he's saying, I just thought that I would ask you that question. I just thought that I would add that question, throw that question at you. Okay, just ask you that question. She says, just photograph it if you don't like cucumbers. And he says, for your SNS sites or something, it's cool to eat kimchi these days, right? And she said, that's right. It is trendy, especially among foreigners, I guess. When my friends come over, I always suggest that if they don't like it raw, to cook it. If they don't like it raw, meaning uncooked, fresh, they should cook it. And he says it is much more palatable, I think, cooked, right? Palatable, we're saying that something is very tasty. If it's especially tasty, okay, agreeable, we say that it's savory, delicious. Palatable is another word for delicious and tasty, okay? And then finally moving on, he says, I'm going to have some cooked kimchi after this. So, sounds like a plan. I especially like to have cooked kimchi when I go to one of those samgyeopsal places, pork belly places. Yes, on the grill, you add some kimchi and cook it. Have it with the pork belly. It's really good. Anyhow, let's take a listen to the conversation one more time.
Mary, a question. Are you into fermented foods?
I don't know. There's lots of different fermented foods that I'm probably not familiar with, but I know kombucha is a tea that's kind of popular in the health community.
Wow, a fermented tea?
Right.
That's the first I've heard of that.
It's really yummy, and people drink it because of the probiotics. It's supposed to be healthy for your digestive tract.
Sure, well, I think that's why like fermented foods are really popular in Korea. You know, we've got like a doenjang, which is fermented soybeans, and the number one most popular dish, kimchi,
right,
you know, with all its probiotics and stuff. Are you a fan of kimchi?
I like kimchi. I mean, there's so many different kinds, right?
Yeah.
So when I first came, I liked the radish kind of cube kimchi. That was my favorite.
That's nice. Gakdugi, I think.
Right. And then I eased my way into more of the spicier, sour kimchi.
Yeah.
Now if I'm away from Korea for too long, I miss it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's like a proper Korean, because when they go abroad, sometimes they pack some kimchi in their suitcase. Yeah, I think it can explode sometimes, so be careful.
And it's quite smelly. That is not something I'd want on my clothes.
No, perhaps not. But like you as well, I used to like the less spicy kimchis, but now I think my favorite kind is the fresh kimchi, which I don't think is actually fermented. It's called got-jori, and that's served with dishes like samgyetang, the boiled chicken.
Okay.
And I have to eat it with something. Like I can't eat it on its own.
Is it red?
Yeah, it is red. It's very red, but it doesn't taste as deep as the other kimchis. Do you like the cucumber kimchi?
I don't know if I've tried that.
Stuffed with little strips of radish, I think.
Oh, I've never tried that.
It looks cool.
I might have to taste that now. It looks cool, but how does it taste?
I don't like cucumbers.
Okay.
But I just thought I'd toss that
just
question
photograph
out there.
it?
Yeah, for your SNS sites or something. It's cool to eat kimchi these days,
That's right. It is trendy. When my friends come over, I always suggest that if they don't like it raw, to cook it.
It is much more palatable, I think, cooked, right? Yeah, I'm going to have some cooked kimchi after this.
Okay, here we go with today's actual expressions. Let's begin with yummy. What does yummy mean? When would you say, yummy? When something's really tasty, when something's really delicious, okay? It means that it is, palatable is another word. We'll be going over that later. Appetizing, juicy, savory, delicious. These are all words for yummy, delicious, tasty. Ease means what? Ease means to guide, facilitate, loosen even. But in today's actual talk conversation, we were talking about easing into something, which means to gradually move or shift to something very carefully. Moving on to proper. In today's actual talk, we were talking about the usual, the standard, specific, distinctive, and even exact and usual. Explode means to burst or blow up. Deep means what? Extreme, rich, strong. We were talking about extreme, how deep it is, how it isn't as deep as the other kimchis. It's not as strong as the other kimchis, right? Deep means very strong and rich. Palatable is very similar to yummy. Yummy is informal, very casual. Palatable is a good word, so you might want to use this word in more formal settings, okay? It means delicious, appetizing. Okay, now let's move on to community. Community. This is tricky to pronounce. Let's try it 2 times. Community. Community. We are talking about a group of people that usually share a common interest. A community. Okay. I love meeting my small tennis community every Saturday. So community, once again, is just a small group of people. Not only small, but a group of people. So I love meeting my small tennis group. I love meeting my small tennis community every Saturday. Okay? Moving on. Fan of something. Okay? Well, basically means you are fond of, you have a liking for, you love, you like something very much. I used to be a fan of pork until I tried lamb. So, I used to be a fan of pork. I used to love pork until I tried lamb. So, what am I saying here? I'm saying I used to be a fan of pork before, but now I am a fan of lamb. Got it? Okay. Moving on. Toss or toss out means to throw, throw out, or even when you want to add a question. Okay? All of a sudden, out of nowhere, throw a question. You can say, I would like to toss out a question, meaning add a question, ask a question. Oh, I won't be at work tomorrow. I just thought I should toss that out before I forget to tell you. So you're saying, I'm not going to be at work tomorrow. I just thought I would throw that out. Throw that out. Mention that. Add that before I forget to tell you. Okay? So please do practice these patterns more on your own, everyone, and the vocab words, and make them yours. Good job.
Well, if you know anything about me, you'll know that I really love food and I love Korean food. And the Korean dish, representative Korean dish, is of course kimchi. But I thought I knew a lot about kimchi when I told my foreign friends about it. But when I came to Korea, I realized that there are so many different varieties, over like 120, 124 or something like that. And it's just growing because kimchis from different regions are different. The ingredients that go in, people think that kimchi just has fermented cabbage and a little bit of chili and stuff like that. But in other regions, you get salted fish, like anchovies, actual big fish as well. In other regions, you have your kimchis with meat in it. Other sorts include stuff like cucumber, radish. You've got your white kimchi with a lot of water in it, the white water kimchi or 물김치. That's really nice for people who don't really like the chilliness or the hotness of kimchi. So yeah, I want to go around Korea and try all the different regional kimchis out there.
Okay, today we had an Aussie, Joanne from Australia, helping us out with actual story. Let's take a listen or let's take a look at what she has mentioned. Here we go. I thought I knew a lot about kimchi. I thought I knew a lot about kimchi when I told my foreign friends about it. So what is she implying? She's saying I once thought I knew a lot about kimchi, but I disagree. I think otherwise. I don't know much about kimchi. People think that kimchi just has fermented cabbage. Remember, fermented cabbage. You can also call it salted cabbage. Got it? Fermented cabbage or salted cabbage, because usually we throw salt to kind of, salt it or to soften the cabbage. So you can say salted cabbage. That's right. And one last one that's really nice for people who don't like the chilliness or the hotness of kimchi. Now, what is she talking about here? She's talking about 물김치. Okay, she mentioned something about water kimchi. Okay, she's talking about 물김치. So she's saying for people that don't like the chilliness, the spiciness, or the hotness of kimchi, the water kimchi or 물김치 is very good. So she's mentioned many different kinds of kimchis, how they differ depending on each region, and what types of ingredients are used differently depending on each region. Okay, so let's check out the response one more time.
Well, if you know anything about me, you'll know that I really love food and I love Korean food. And the Korean dish, representative Korean dish, is of course kimchi. But I thought I knew a lot about kimchi when I told my foreign friends about it. But when I came to Korea, I realized that there are so many different varieties, over like 120, 124 or something like that. And it's just growing because kimchis from different regions are different. The ingredients that go in, people think that kimchi just has fermented cabbage and a little bit of chili and stuff like that. But in other regions, you get salted fish, like anchovies, actual big fish as well. In other regions, you have your kimchis with meat in it. Other sorts include stuff like cucumber, radish. You've got your white kimchi with a lot of water in it, the white water kimchi or 물김치. That's really nice for people who don't really like the chilliness or the hotness of kimchi. So yeah, I want to go around Korea and try all the different regional kimchis out there.
Okay, today we had a chance to talk about the very delicious, a representative Korean dish called kimchi. So I hope you learned a lot. And perhaps the next time you find yourself in a situation where you have to talk about kimchi, you'll know more of what you can mention in that conversation. Talk about how it's fermented. Talk about how you salt the cabbage in the beginning. You know, foreigners especially, they love to hear about the process. How things are done from step one to the very last step. So when you explain to them about the various kinds of kimchis, tell them there are more than 100 different types of kimchis. Ask them how many different types they have tried, which type of kimchi are their favorites. And then begin by telling them how their favorite kimchis are made from the beginning to the end. I'm not an expert in making kimchi, but I do have some experience. I've helped my mother out several times making cabbage kimchi, even the radish kimchi and cucumber kimchi. She's not very good at making cucumber kimchi, but her pechu kimchi, cabbage kimchi is pretty good. So I will try it on my own someday. Okay. Anyhow, that is it for today, everyone. Next time, let's talk about another Korean food related topic, something we also cannot leave out. Let's talk about street food. Delicious street food we'll find on the streets. In the meantime, come to our homepage, everyone. Come on over to www.ebse.co.kr. Look for Actual English with Jennifer and post up your comments if you have any feedback, questions as well. Okay, until next time, take good care of yourselves and I'll see you again soon. Until then, bye for now.